Welcome to the Business Growth Spotlight, where we shine the light and talk with business leaders from all over the world. Today, we're coming to you with my guest from New Zealand, which is exciting, who share their insights and expertise so we can, oh no, he's actually not in New Zealand. He is in Australia, Sydney, Australia, but travels a lot to New Zealand. I wanted to get that right, who share their insights and expertise so we can all grow together. I'm your host, Heidi Schalk, and the co-founder of the Spotlight to Scale Accelerator, where we help businesses drive revenue by making sure they're seen as the expert and go-to authority in their space, in their industry, versus just another product or service. And today, as I shared, my special guest is coming to us from Sydney, Australia, and he is James Coddington with SkillsVR. Welcome, James, to the podcast.
Hey, Heidi, great to be here.
It is so great to have you. And I'm excited about learning more about your company because as I was sharing, my son was very involved with his VR, and it was so much fun watching him play his games and talking to his friends while doing it. And you bring it, you bring a little curveball into the VR space. So can you share with us, tell us a little bit about who you are, your company, and your role within it?
Yeah, absolutely. So SkillsVR is an education company first and foremost, and we use immersive technologies, being virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, to deliver training and education at scale. We started 10 years ago as an organization delivering e-learning, and over the period of time, we found that e-learning, although it was fantastic to scale, it wasn't delivering high learning outcomes or high completion rates. So we were challenged by some of our customers to go away and come up with a training modality that not only delivered high learning outcomes, but could be delivered in a fraction of the time that traditional training could be delivered. So we went on a journey to do that, and we've been doing that for the last 6 years. Really exciting because we're at the forefront of innovative technology that is being developed and being innovated on a daily basis. We get to use their incredible hardware and technology, and we implement it into learning modules. So in really simple terms, it's we adopt virtual reality because it is a very tactile, immersive experience that allows you to learn by doing. And that in itself, when I was a kid, I was not the smartest in the classroom, as my mum would tell you, if she was sitting beside me. But what I was very good at was working with my hands. And if I could learn like I did on a sports field, or if I could learn by doing, I could apply that much, much faster. So in simple terms, SkillsVR is a edtech business that delivers immersive learning at scale, utilizing our technology to do so.
I love what you said because I have two children and both teenagers, and they both learn differently. And I think like I love what you're doing because people in general, different people learn differently. Some people can consume the information by listening to it. Some people can see it, but by actually doing it, you're utilizing more senses to get that information, which I think sets that information. You're not just like I was talking with somebody earlier today. Back in my day, we memorized something, but we didn't retain it because we literally memorized it to spit it back out to get a good grade, and then that information was gone. So I really think it's amazing what you all are doing, and I'm imagining the retention level is so much higher. So can you share with us who are the people that you work with? So there's a company or somebody listening going, I really think that this could help, my team or my people. Who is it that would be your ideal client and who you work with?
I mean, we work with large organizations because usually that they have the largest challenges and problems to scale their training across multi-jurisdictions, a lot of multi-country, and they've got a lot of people. And also by having a lot of people, they've got a lot of turnover, and their training can be really challenging to keep what I would call on track so that it is being delivered consistently across all the different. Most of our customers would be Fortune 100 in the US, and outside the US, large organizations that have anything from 10,000 to 2 million staff. And they have to train them, whether that be compliance training. You think of all the companies that have to go through compliance training, whether that be in a construction industry or whether that be in financial services. They have a requirement to be trained on a yearly or a yearly basis. So for what we're wanting to do, we create the training with the customer, and then we scale with the customer. So when a customer comes to us and says, well, we've got a really large challenge in our IT support, and we have a really high turnover of staff, we're unable to keep consistent training. And so they come to us with these use cases, or the problem cases, if you like, and we help them not only solve that problem, but also be able to scale it out to their organizations. And this is where one of the superpowers of VR is it's super scalable. So yes, you have a headset, but that headset can be shared. And this was really found through COVID when a lot of companies had to shut down their training. They couldn't bring people into a centralized training. So we were able to send headsets to people's homes. So COVID created the opportunity for us to allow us to showcase what we can do and how we can scale our training across large organizations. And there was multiple financial services companies that had 80 to 120,000 staff that had a really large challenge to train their call center staff who are now working from home. So we were sending headsets all around the world, and they were able to be trained in an effective manner. And not only are you able to train them, you get very detailed analytics from the training. So it's not about one and done. So if you're doing an e-learning, two things you'll know: that they do the training, they finish the training, or they get it right. Whereas in VR, what we're actually assessing is your ability to apply the knowledge. So your application of that knowledge becomes incredibly important. So we can measure where they're looking. In a conflict management situation, it's really important they have eye contact with the person who is providing them some challenge. We can record their intonation in their voice. We can record all sorts of behavioral analytics that just is not available in traditional training. So that becomes incredibly powerful for organizations and management who are actually looking to assess the current competency standard across their organizations. And so that's kind of where it grew. And then from there, once you've got the analytics, then you have this very important part where organizations will have an insatiable appetite to create content. And so up until recently, it's been very, very hard to create content. It's expensive and it can take time. So we created a content creation kit through our AI integrations, whereby you can create traditional content, whether that be PowerPoint presentations or a SCORM compliant file from e-learning, maybe a manual or a book, and put it through our AI converter. And within 1 minute, it actually creates your virtual reality experience, which you can then push to your headset. Really powerful, really amazing. And we're doing that for a lot of our core customers in the US at the moment. And that has broken down a lot of barriers around how XR can be scaled and delivered at scale.
That's incredible how fast you can do it too. So like it doesn't take in 1 minute to convert a whole manual. Like that's incredible. And it creates, and I'm sure this is a much more fun way of learning too for their employees versus just sitting down and having to read a manual or at a computer trying to like type in an answer. Which the retention would be higher. So you mentioned challenges that some of these businesses have. They have big challenges and they bring you in. What are some of the biggest challenges in traditional corporate training, and how does SkillsVR address them?
Yeah, great question. So traditional training often has been delivered in a centralized manner where the associates or the employees have to come to a central place. So first thing is travel. It's immensely expensive to bring people from all over the different states to one central place. And then consistency of trainers. So there's no such thing as having a bad day in AI training because it's consistent. You know what you're going to get, and it's delivered in the same way every time. So those are two massive things. So the cost of actually bringing the training to a centralized point. The second point is having consistent trainers that are delivering on a consistent basis. You also have, whether you like it or not, unconscious biases that come into the training and how that is being assessed. Whether that be e-learning training or whether that be more traditional when they're sharing videos, etc. All of those trainings can take a long time. So I give you a rule of thumb: 8 hours in a classroom is equivalent of about 30 minutes in a headset. So
Wow.
if you've got 8 hours of traditional training in a classroom, we can reduce that right back to around 20, 30 minutes in a headset, which again is return on investment. And I'll give you one example. Here in Australia, they call it the white ticket, which is a construction a foundational passport. So if you want to be a construction worker, you might be a plumber or an electrician or a carpenter, you have to go on site. You have to have a foundation passport in order for you to even work. Now that's compulsory. That's generally delivered 8 hours in the classroom. We deliver it in 30 minutes in a headset, where not only can those construction workers do it on site, they don't need to be going off site to do so, but the construction owners do not lose a full day of their staff while they're getting their passport. So lots of little fantastic ROIs that we can help with a lot of the challenges around more traditional training.
Yeah, efficiency and productivity is a very important and major ROI for companies, especially of that
Yeah.
size. So I mentioned that I can imagine how the retention is so much better with your type of training. So can you share with us how VR-based training does
Yeah,
improve knowledge retention application compared to traditional learning?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So one of the really what I call a superpower of VR is the ability to retain the information. Now, there's scientific evidence that has gone into this, and there's been many a study that has come out of a lot of much smarter organizations than myself. And really it goes like this. So if you are in a VR training, within 15 seconds, your brain thinks it's real. Even though you know in your mind it is not real, but your brain thinks it's real. So when you are going through let's call it a dangerous situation, it might be a conflict management. So we do some conflict management training for all sorts of different companies. I'll use the airlines as an example.
Okay.
Unfortunately, out of COVID, we've all kind of woken up and we're a little bit grumpy, and we've become we've lost our patience. And so you go to the airport, we see conflict everywhere. We see conflict with the poor check-in staff. We see the conflict with the baggage staff. We see the conflict when you're trying to board a plane. So we're the ones who train those people. So they traditionally have been doing role play, or they've been doing it in e-learning, and it doesn't elicit the same physiological responses through that training as what you would in a headset. So when you're in the headset, as I said, 15 seconds, your brain thinks it's real. So when someone is coming at you in this scenario, a virtual scenario, and you're literally in front of you, your heart rate goes up, you start sweating, all the physiological responses that you'd expect in the real case happens to you. And so when you take that headset off and you go, wow, that was powerful. But what's even more powerful is when that situation happens to you, which is probably on your first hour back at work, you feel less anxious, you feel calmer, because you feel like you've been there before and you've gone through the scenario. And so your learning outcomes are much higher. So it's measured around about 92 to 95% of the content you go through in a VR experience is remembered over a much longer period of time, compared to in a classroom setting, we're talking less than 20%. So there you go. You've got I'd say almost 5 times the ability to retain that information, because one, it's shorter, two, it's real world, and 3, you actually feel like you are there and you've done it before. And so you are better preparing for people on the front line, especially around conflict management, for their jobs. And that the whole lot of benefits from that is 1, they're less anxious. 2, they feel better prepared. 3, they feel more supported. And the outcome of that is you're going to retain that staff member for a lot longer than if they weren't trained. They feel very high anxiety. They feel scared to come to work, and they quit.
Yeah, and they're feeling empowered to handle situations as they arise, which I think is great, because I'm
Yeah.
thinking back to when I worked for a company and we had to go through certain trainings. And some of it was, security, cybersecurity, because it was, you needed to make sure that you weren't allowing things to come in different trainings. And it was all done online. So you would read a question or a scenario, and then you would put in your answer. And I couldn't tell you that I remember any of those at this moment, but I'm sure that if I went through the VR real world type version and I had those bodily reactions to it or those physiological reactions to it, I would remember it much more deeply. So I think it's really interesting what you're doing. In 15 seconds that your brain thinks it's real is incredible. That's really fast.
Yeah,
Really fast.
and it's just the way our brains work. But that's really the science behind it is that if we think it's real, we act like it's real, and if we act like it's real, we get the physiological responses of it being real. So when you come out of that virtual environment, you feel like you have actually been in a real situation, and you're better prepared, better equipped, and empowered to deal with it.
Yeah, and that experience is imprinted in your memory. So like you said, when it happens in real life, you're like, oh, I've been here, done that.
That's
Incredible.
right.
Like mind blowing. For me, I think it's incredible and I love what you're doing. So James, what role does AI powered coaching play in leadership development and employee growth?
Yeah, so we've really noticed in probably the last 12 months, but mainly 6 months around the AI generative uh, content experiences has ramped up a lot. So um, what I would call a traditional training, let's call it face-to-face training in the classroom. You generally have a script that you follow, and whether that be through a PowerPoint or whether that be through your own internal notes, you go through a fairly linear script. Now, when you're in an e-learning, they do some branching. So if you answer the question A, you'll go off in a different branch than if you answer question B. But
Mhm.
there's limited branching, right? So you've got some limitations around how much variety you can provide that training situation. Now with generative AI, it's opened up a whole new way of delivery, and it really is quite fantastic. So we use avatars connecting to a large language model, LLMs, that allow, we call it Ask Me Anything. So you can literally get into a situation, and it could be related to how it could be related to the company's values. It could be related to the company's standard operating procedures for how they set something up in their business. Now, relatively simple stuff, but the employee actually wants to ask some questions. The employee wants to ask, well, what happens if this happens? Or what happens if that happens? Now you can do all of that. And so now you've got training that you can serve up to your teams, which is fully dynamic, is not scripted, and it's all linked to a large language model that, and what I mean by a large language model is you're able to ensure that the answers that your AI avatar delivers is relatable to your business. And
Mhm.
that's really important. So you train the large language model, and we call it on rails, making sure that the LLM is on rails to ensure that the answers and responses come back that are on point, that doesn't go off tangent. And trust me, when employees are put in a headset, they will ask them anything. They'll ask the avatar to go out for dinner tonight. They'll ask the avatar all sorts of crazy questions. Now, if it is a well-trained avatar, well-trained avatar, if it's a well-trained large language model, they will be able to shut down those questions and just relate it to what the question was related to the business. So that has really advanced the opportunities around coaching. And when I look at the future of work and the future of education, I can really see a time not too far in the distant future whereby we're going to have these glasses. They're going to be smart glasses. It's going to connect with an avatar of your choice. And that avatar is going to be your coach. And that you can ask that avatar anything you like related to your business. It could even be the avatar will actually be your personal trainer. And these smart glasses will essentially be able to be connected to a whole host of different LLMs that allow you to be able to better equip yourself from an education and a coaching perspective in your life. And we're already doing this now. So we're launching that in about 3 months. So very exciting, and all related to AI and the adoption of AI, especially around the generative AI.
That is really exciting. Not the first person I've heard that things are going to be moving to smart glasses, like our phones and things like that. So get ready, everybody. And you heard it here from James. You're going to be able to have your own coaching through your glasses, which is pretty incredible. Through an avatar of your choice that you get to create and choose. So James, how can for companies, for someone listening and they have never done anything like this, how can companies integrate VR training into their existing learning and development strategies without any feeling like they're creating a major disruption?
Yeah, and that's another good question because um, at the core of any change in a business, you have to have very good change management processes and protocols. And this is no different. So if you're implementing any new technology or any new way of doing things, you have to operate it through your change management lens because this is what you're doing. Most of our customers operate with they start with a small group of people, call it a POC, and they've got a specific use case in mind, and they wrap a handful of 10 to 50 headsets and they bring it in and they wrap around a certain set of standards and expectations and objectives. And we work with them to ensure that we can create that for them. And then we hold their hand, literally hold their hand through the process so that they are learning how to operate the hardware, how to deliver the software, and how to get the most out of the analytics. And then when they're ready, how they can start creating the content themselves. So those are the four key facets of the business. And we work closely with the hardware providers, whether that be Meta or whether that be Pico or Apple or HTC or whoever it might be from a hardware perspective. It's really important that the hardware is chosen for the right application, and then the software can dovetail into that and deliver what they're required. So if you're coming from a newbie as a never ever don't know anything about this, but I do have a use case in mind and I really want some help, that's where we start. And we try and solve that problem. We wrap a set of objectives around that and we measure it over a period of time. And at the end of that, we then are able to scale that to another use case, hopefully further and further into their business.
Amazing. So for organizations who are looking to future-proof their workforce, James, what's one piece of advice that you'd give them about training and development?
Yeah, stop ticking a box and actually really start looking at how you can change behaviors and really deliver your training. There's too many organizations globally that have viewed training as a ticking of a box to ensure that they're looked after when the insurance company comes knocking or when the compliance manager comes knocking, that they have ticked those boxes and they're compliant. But really, our people are the most important part of our organizations. We don't spend enough time, we don't spend enough money, and we don't spend enough energy making sure that our teams, the very people who are out there making our businesses successful or not, are the ones that we should be investing in. So training is just like anything. We want to be at the forefront of technology. We want to make sure that the training is relevant to our teams. And for goodness sake, don't make it so boring. Training does not need to be boring. We can make it a most inspiring, immersive, fun experience. And training, when you tell your teams, oh, we got training today, I think probably the first thing that they would say is, really? But if you've got a VR training, they'll be like, oh, awesome. Now what are we going to get into? How exciting. So it is also about making sure we are training the right things and making sure that we have the training philosophies, as well as we have the appropriate training infrastructure to deliver what that is. And I look at, companies of all shapes and sizes, and quite often a mid-sized company of, say 50,000 staff, they say, we're too big for VR. Like, well, that's actually that's just not correct, because we've got the Fortune 1. Walmart is probably one of the earlier adopters of VR training in the world, and they train 1.4 million associates every month. And then, there's many other large organizations that are using VR at scale to deliver immersive training experiences that make a real difference to people's lives. And I could use several examples of Walmart around the first shooter. They're preparing their associates in case there's a shooting incident in their stores, which unfortunately there has been. And it saves lives. These things save lives. This is not about ticking a box. This is about ensuring that we're preparing our people for what they need to know in their work. Simple.
Yeah. And unfortunately, in today's world, we got to cover some of the things that people don't want to cover. But when, like you said, when they're doing it in real time, they're going to remember. They're more likely going to remember, especially in those high pressure situations or high stressful situations, how to handle it and handle it with much more ease than they would have
Mm.
and with a clear head than they would have otherwise. No, I love what you're doing. I think it's going to make it's if I'm sure it is making a huge impact in organizations, and it's going to continue to. James, can we talk a little bit about business growth? You've been in business now and
Mm.
you've been evolving and growing, and I'm sure there's been some challenges that you've had along the way. So can you share a challenge or some challenges you've had and how you've overcome them in the growth of your business?
Yeah, like setting up a business is as someone described it the other day is like torture. You start with the most best intentions and you have a vision and you know where you're wanting to go, but it's not a linear experience. So if you're to map this, you've got a x axis, y axis, and it's not a linear experience. It's this messy experience in the middle and best intentions. You start with something and you'll end with something completely different. But it's the stuff in the middle that makes you successful. And what I mean, the stuff in the middle, that's the messy stuff. When it becomes uncomfortable, you know you're growing. When it becomes just unwieldy at times, it's like that's when you're growing. And so I would say one of the biggest challenges is growing your business. So, and having the courage to keep stepping outside. And I use the example of our own business. We started in New Zealand, tiny little country, the bottom of the world, 5 million people in the whole of the country. And we did really, really well there. We're probably 70% market share of the industry. Then we went into Australia, slightly bigger, 24 million people, but still at the bottom of the world. And then we decided that we're doing such a good job here. Why don't we replicate it and go to the US? Oh boy, that was easier said than done. uh, we've learned how the US operates. We've learned how there's 50 different countries within the one country. Everything that we do in New Zealand or Australia throw out because it doesn't work. We now need to think differently. Look, it's been a really amazing journey and challenge because it literally every day challenges us and we come up with new solutions to some of those problems. But then you've got to fund it. It's like, okay, so we went from 11 staff to 75 staff and paying US dollars out of New Zealand. So just so you're aware, New Zealand dollar is about 55 cents to the US dollar, so almost double the price. So if we're paying a staff member $200,000 in the US, that's $400,000 New Zealand. So those were some of the challenges we had to do before you can bring in income, before you can bring in all those things. But thankfully, we got through those challenging periods because we have great investors who support you. But then we've also had incredible customers who believe in what we're doing and we're able to do what we do. But that will always happen. So, there's no such thing as going up the next level and stopping, going up the next level and stopping. You're always pushing the envelope of innovation. You're always pushing the envelope of what's possible. And in the tech world, it just works so fast. I look at what's happened in the last 6 months with AI adoption and what we're working with today and what we didn't have available to us a year ago. This is only a year. It feels like 10 years. And so those are the things that we have to stay on top of and making sure we've got the right people to do the job and ensuring that when you grow that you actually can deliver to that growth. And you often have to invest in people before you've got the revenue. So all of those, tech it's a crazy space to be in because it's forever growing, forever evolving, and forever innovating. And if you don't stay in front of that, you literally do get run over and you can be wiped out. I mean, I think of so many different industries right now where AI has literally come along and taken over their roles. We used to have 6 copywriters in our business. Well, clearly we don't need copywriters in our business anymore. So what do those copywriters do? Well, they don't lose their job. They retrain to do something else within AI. So I'm a big fan of saying, yes, AI is taking over jobs, but it's not taking over jobs. It's evolving jobs and you need to adapt to those. And in the current field, I think it's one of the greatest challenges in tech businesses adopting to the rapid change and keeping up with that change. Otherwise, not looking, you'll end up with a blockbuster moment where all of a sudden you look around and everyone's streaming and you're still trying to sell CDs. or DVDs.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, blockbuster moment. Well, we don't want that. So question for you, as far as marketing, like you said, you're in the tech space and it's growing fast, it's evolving fast, and you have to keep up with it. Like you always need to be
Mm.
on your toes and you need to be a little bit ahead of it. Otherwise, like you said, you could be run over. So in marketing and visibility, how are you staying top of mind? What are the things that you're doing to make sure that you are staying a little bit ahead or staying in the front of the game to make sure that you are getting in front of your customers and they're finding you as well?
Yeah, I think this is our biggest challenge in our business. You know, we're not the biggest in our industry. We certainly are one of the more innovative and have a great product, but we can't afford to go to every conference. We can't afford to be doing a lot of the things that we would like to be doing. So we have to be smarter with the money that we have, and that is um, there's no replacement for face to face. That's why I travel a lot. I like to meet our customers regularly, and I want to understand what they're doing in their businesses. And there's no substitute for personal relationships, none. I found that over COVID, the 2 years that we were kind of locked down and we weren't able to be traveling and certainly weren't able to be going into headquarters. Headquarters weren't allowing you into their businesses. We really struggled because we were unable to build those relationships. And building relationships over Zoom is not the same as going out for a lunch or having a coffee or having a beer at the end of the day or sharing a meal. So we invest a lot in the human side of it. So that is there's no substitute for that. So we also do the normal stuff around LinkedIn and try to be at the forefront of the thought leadership. So we want to be seen to be working alongside some of the we have innovation days. We have anything that allows us to connect to our joint customer. So again, face to face is our priority. That's where we invest our money. Clickbait, we don't do email marketing. It's just so impersonal. And I don't know about you, I get them a day and I just delete them. The companies that are sending it out, I don't want to work with them. So that's my view of it. And that's one of the more negatives of AI is that we get absolutely smashed every day from trying to sell us something. That's not what we do. And I wouldn't recommend that to anyone.
Yeah. It's interesting that you are you're a tech company and your AI, like there, you incorporate AI and you are very driven by face-to-face interpersonal relationships.
Mm.
You're not using AI-driven methods to connect with your audience or to connect with your ideal client. So for those of you listening, this is an important key point and something I'm hearing across the board. AI is not going to replace that human connection and those relationships. And business is it's still personal. It's still about building relationships and, building those connections, and AI can't do that. So AI is great for efficiency, for productivity, for research, things like that. But when it comes to building those long-term clients, those long-term relationships, you need to still bring in that human element. So that's really, really important. Oh, James, another question for you. If I can give you a magic wand and you can wave your magic wand over one issue that you're seeing inside of your business right now that you could go poof and take it away, what would that issue be and why?
Mm. Interesting. Yeah, you're only giving me one wish.
Okay.
I thought you got
You
I
have
thought you
three
got
wishes.
three. And look, I'll take the one wish. That sounds good.
I can give you the genie for the three wishes.
Personally, I would like someone to invent, what do you call that, time travel so that
Ah,
I can get from my home in Queenstown, New Zealand to my other home in Denver, Colorado, and I can do it in 10 minutes, not 18 hours. So time travel would be nice. But on a more serious note, oh wow, I would say, oh. I would say the technical teams of what we've been able to build and create in New Zealand, if I could replicate that in some of my other jurisdictions, so in the UK and in the US, and be closer to our customers, that would probably be it, and not have to pay 4 times the amount of money to do that. That would be my wish is if the New Zealand dollar was able to be used in America and I could pay my staff in New Zealand dollars, which is not, I'm pretty sure that's illegal. It would allow us to be closer to the customer we've got a lot of great benefits of being down under. We've got incredible talent there and they do great work and we can keep the costs down. But at times we would like to have a more centralized tech team based with the customer.
Mm. Yeah. One final question, James, for you, which is if we could come back in a year from now and revisit this conversation, which I would love to do if possible, what would success look for like for Skills VR and you in 2025?
Oh, I love this.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So we actually haven't talked about what our core social imperative is. So yes, we deliver training to Fortune 100 companies. We've got a lot of great customers and they pay us good money to do what we do for them. But we also have a social impact to our business, which is for every license one of our enterprise customers pays, we give that license to a school. And so
Oh,
we're providing free immersive education to schools all around the world. Currently, we have just over 6,000 schools. What do we got? Close to 1 million students, so all receiving our online immersive training free of charge. And
wow.
we deliver 5 core tenets to that. So we have conflict management, we have diversity, equity, inclusion, we have mental health and wellness, we do financial wellness, and we also do a host of other curriculum-based content. And we partner with the Smithsonian for some of their content, and we've also partnered with Bank of America for the financial wellness. And a lot of our large customers like Meta have donated their headsets to be able to be reused into schools. Those are some of the programs. So if I come back here in a year, I want to have 50,000 schools that are receiving our program free of charge.
Amazing.
That's my goal.
I love that goal. And please let us know how we can support you in making that happen, because I think that's incredible. So anything we can do to support you in making that happen, please let us know. For you listening,
Thank you.
let us support James and his mission to get in more schools, as well as spread the word about what he does with trainings for companies. If you're with a company or you have a company that you need these trainings, reach out to James, which leads me, James, to how do people connect with you? How can they reach out to you?
Very easy. James at skillsvr.com.
Perfect. Super easy. James at skillsvr.com. You also said you're on LinkedIn, so we can find you on LinkedIn as
I am.
well. Connect with him there, send him a DM, follow, connect, hit all the buttons. Let him know you heard him here at the Business Growth Spotlight. James, I just want to say thank you so much for spending time with me today. Is there anything that you want to share that I didn't ask you or we didn't get to touch on?
No, I think I'd need another couple of hours. But I love talking to you, Heidi, and it's also fantastic in the work that you're doing and sharing to your audience. And thank you for having me on your show, and also thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate you and your time, and especially from coming around the world that you are right now from Australia. For you listening, if you're watching James and I on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and leave a note below comment below for James. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform like Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or anywhere you listen them to, and you can leave a review, please hit those 5 stars and also leave us a review and comment. It helps us get the message out from my incredible guests like James about what they do and their initiatives, just like he's doing with his goal of getting into 50,000 schools for free to share this amazing technology with students on top of what he does for the companies he works with. If you are looking to grow your visibility inside of your business, if you feel like you're doing the things and you're just not getting seen in the way you want to, and you're getting your message across the way you want to, then go ahead and download our free Spotlight to Scale blueprint. You can go to spotlighttoscale.com/blueprint. It's free. Grab it. It's yours. And again, thank you for listening, James and I. Make sure you connect with him on LinkedIn and go to skillsvr.com and check out all the goodness that they're creating and the impact they're making in the world. Thank you, James, for being here today. I'm so grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you again. We'll see you on the next episode of the Business Growth Spotlight podcast.